Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Nashville Predators Throwback 2000 franchise mode here in NHL 24. So in last episode we had an uneventful free agency. We only made one signing Matthias Temander for our defensive core, and we also started up the season simulation for 2001, and you could see we are 12-13, 1-1, which is kind of better than expected, but obviously this team should start to fall off a bit because there has been some underlying problems, like our offense hasn't been that good despite having a pretty good power play, that type of thing. So if our offense continues to struggle, I think we definitely will start to lose games because we are currently allowing more goals than we're scoring. But at the moment, it's kind of weird because I think we're actually technically in a playoff spot, which is not really what I was expecting at the start of this season. As you can see in the Western Conference, we currently have 25 points through 27 games. However, there is teams like the LA Kings who have 3 less games played than us and only 2 less points. So technically, I think we would just be on the outside looking in. Edmonton's also very close to us too, and like it's an easy race that we could fall off all the way to like one of the last spots in the Western Conference. Like the Calgary Flames are even on 20 points. It's just the Vancouver Canucks who have been really, really bad up to this point. So I think we could easily fall off and get ourselves a pretty solid pick for this year's draft. Now I'll show you guys quickly some of the player stats. It's been kind of surprising on who's been able to put up points. As you can see, if we go to just forwards here, currently we're led by our player that we just brought in last season, Andreas Johansson. He's been really good, 23 points in 27 games. And then Mike Watt, who's in his rookie season, has actually also been pretty good with 22 points through 27 games. And then you can see our depth scoring has been pretty good, even though everybody on our team is under point per game. You can see we're definitely getting some good depth scoring, and some of the young guys are playing decently, like Scott Hartnell's got 14 points, Nagy's got 13 points. So obviously, I hope that a lot of these young guys continue to produce, like one on the 15 points. So it's good to see that all those guys that I put on the power play unit are actually doing their job, and hopefully, like I said, they get some growth, so that way we could start building up the future core of this team quite a bit. From a defensive standpoint, we're led by Barahowski, who's actually a pending free agent, so I think he would be probably a prime candidate to get traded this season. Kimmo Timonen has been pretty solid as well. He obviously hasn't been that good defensively. I kind of hope he improves a little bit still, because obviously he's a guy that should be here at least till we get to like past the lockout time frame. Then there's also like Carlos Grashton. These guys have been okay defensively, and then Fitzpatrick hasn't been really that great in terms of defense. Goaltending wise, Vokoun has been very inconsistent, which is not great, but Chris Mason as a backup, despite only being a 78 overall, has been very, very good. So I'm glad that we decided to give him a chance as our backup for the season. But there is that. And now I think we're ready to get into your guys' comments, and then we will probably start simulating to closer to the trade deadline, like a day before the trade deadline. And next episode we'll have the trade deadline and sim the rest of the season. But hopefully this team doesn't win more games in this episode, because that'd be pretty damn frustrating. Because like I said, I don't really want to make the playoffs until like, I don't know, year number 7 or 8 maybe. Take it a little bit slow throughout these first few years for sure. So the first 2 comments are from Jared the Rabbit. The first one says, if they existed in this game, EA for sure would have had Dunham going for 8th and 9th round picks. They would have definitely had some weird logic with the 8th and 9th round picks, because the drafts had 8 and 9 rounds back in those days, which is still kind of weird to think about. But yeah, when we traded Mike Dunham, we really didn't get much, or we weren't going to get much, but we decided to package, I think it was Mark Mowers that we packaged with him, and we were able to get back a little bit more than we were asking for originally, so that's really good. That at least we got a little bit more assets, but definitely the trade values are a little bit wonky with this, and like getting offered a 6th and a 7th round pick for a player that was like an 83 overall starting goalie is kind of weird, but that's basically just based on, I think, my overall ratings in this game. And Jared also says Slager would play for the Bruins towards the end of his time in the NHL, and yeah, I remember that. It was like 2006-07, if I remember right, that he was playing for the Boston Bruins for a little bit, because I think when I did my 07 roster build, I remember that he was on there, or I made him for that roster build. I don't remember if he played enough games to get in that build or not, but I do remember for sure seeing his player card and seeing he was on Boston around that point in time. Or maybe that was 05-06, actually. It's either 05-06 or 06-07. I'm getting my years like confused in a sense. And the last and final comment is from Michael Dose, who says, with no salary cap, doesn't make the trades wonky because teams can add players via free agency. A 6th and a 7th for the goalie is an outrageous offer. And I don't think it's the salary cap that affects it. It's more the fact that my rating system is different than EA's. I think that's what affects the trade values and affects what you get thrown at offer-wise. because obviously EA does their ratings a specific way. I do mine a bit differently, but mine are also kind of closer to EA's ratings in a sense, but they make more sense. So I think that's what affects trade values, because if we look at our proposed trade screen for a little test here, a little experiment. If we look at the trade values, you can see like Greg Johnson, what is he listed as role-wise? He's a second-line forward, and he's got that much trade value. Which he has more trade value than some prospects, which is kind of interesting. But I think it's dependent on player role too, because if we go down to somebody like Legwand, he's listed as a depth forward, he doesn't have as much value. You can see a player like Valachevic, who's only an 82, has not really crazy value. Oh, it wasn't Mark Mowers I traded away, it was somebody else, I guess. Can't remember who it was, but you can see like some values here, like medium top 955, barely any value. It's like the same value as like Ville Peltonen, basically. Like, I feel like the trade values are pretty similar to what EA has their trade values at, but like a 77 bottom 6'4", no value whatsoever, even he's only 22. So it's kind of interesting on that front. And then goalie-wise, goalie trade values are always tanked now. So you can see Rick DiPietro doesn't even have that much value despite being a young 19-year-old goaltender with starter potential. So it's a little bit wonky on the goalie front mostly, I think. From a forward perspective, it doesn't seem that bad. And from a draft pick perspective, it seems pretty similar to prior games or prior rosters and stuff like that. So I don't know. I could actually take a look at who has the most value in the entire league, but it's probably like Joe Sakic, Steve Yzerman, those type of guys, my guess. If we go to player search, let's just change the overall rating. Can I change the overall rating? I don't remember if I can. I guess I have to do it the potential min range. Let's just go to 4.5 stars to 5-star players. Yeah, you can see like Pavel Bure has like max value, Korea, Forsberg, but even Eric Lindros isn't a full trade value guy. But you can see it drops off considerably from like Solani down to Medano. So from 95 to 93. I guess it also depends on age too, for that matter. Yeah, maybe that's right. Kind of interesting seeing both Sedins up there. One's a higher overall than the other. But anyways, there's that. Let's get into simulating, I think, the next little bit of the season. I do want to make sure my lines are set up still ready to go. And like I said, we'll go do a day before the deadline, so that way we can get a little bit of season simulated at least. And we could take a look at what we want to trade away next episode, because I know for sure I think Berehowski would probably be one to trade away, just based on how he's playing this season. But aside from that, I don't know who else I would move from this team this year. So we got to see how we simulate up into a day before the deadline. So let's go another month, and we'll see if there's been any trades around the league at that point. I don't think there will be, because most of the trades usually happen around the deadline, but we're going to just check month to month and see if there's been any deals around the league, because obviously that would be interesting to see. And now, okay, we're on a big losing streak, so that's good, the way to start off this episode. And yep, we're still losing games. That's good. Rory Fitzpatrick has been injured with a mild concussion. Let's go replace player, because he's not too important to this team anyways. And he's back right away, like a day later. That makes sense for the time period. I mean, players played with concussions all the time in these days, which is very unfortunate. Craig Miller will come out. Rory Fitzpatrick will come back in. Perfect. It's kind of crazy that players played with like concussions back in these days. Like the health system and stuff for the NHL in these times, very bad. 14-23-1. We are now last place in the Central Division, and in terms of the Western Conference, we're getting closer to the bottom, which is good. We're like bottom 3 now, so that's exactly what I needed from this team, because like I said, I don't want to be competitive for a while, but that was a good, nice little stretch to have for our team. Janssen's only got 28 points now in 38 games, so since then, he's only had 5 points. So our offense has probably fallen off a lot. I don't know about our defensive play, probably. But I do want to check if there's been any trades yet. No, there hasn't been. So we'll go another month and see if there's been any trades leading up to this deadline or not. I honestly don't know who else I want to trade away other than Berehowski. Like, who's not in the picture of this team long term, you know? And also, I want to know if I should be playing DiPietro next season or not. I guess it depends on what we do with Mason. Matthias Tamander has been injured with a pulled groin. That's okay. At least it's for only a week. And we're losing still a bunch of games. Damn, man. This team has definitely fallen off in this episode, as I was expecting. So, very happy with that. because obviously I think it would be nice to tank for some good picks in this year's draft. So, it was Craig Miller again, right? Yeah, it was Miller. So Commander back in. There we go, ready to go. As long as our young guys like Nagy, Hartnell, and such do good, that will be fine. Okay, Buffalo has fired their head coach in 2001, so I do want to take a look at who Buffalo's coach was during this time period, because I was doing that last season. I want to kind of do that again for you guys, so you guys can kind of have a little bit of a history lesson. So if we go to the 2001 Sabres, who was the head coach at this point? It was Lindy Ruff still. Okay, so Lindy Ruff has been fired, apparently. That's interesting. So there goes Lindy Ruff. All right. We got a couple more games left this month. Vancouver has now fired their head coach. Who is Vancouver's head coach in 2001? Kind of funny that we're doing it like this. Just like to see the history. They did fire their head coach last year too, because wasn't it Mark Crawford last year? Yeah, it was Mark Crawford. So this is their second coach that they've fired, because they fired Mark Crawford already. So technically the next coach that would have been in line was Alain Vigneault. But technically this is Mark Crawford again, in a sense, if you want to like say it on based on who was the actual coach in 2001. So Mark Crawford has been fired 2 times, we'll say. Kimmo Timonen has been injured with injured stomach. What is an injured stomach? Like, did he have like a stick poke him back in like the belly or what? That's like seems like the most weirdest injury I've seen. But I'll go replace player on that front. That sucks. Hopefully Kimmo's okay. And now Drake Berehowski's been injured with a mild concussion. Let's just go replace player on that too. But that means Timonen might have honestly just gone where Berehowski was, I think. Let's see. Yeah, he did. We're going to take him out for a second so I could get somebody else in here. So I'll just put Cote for the time being. I'll put Craig Miller out and Timonen in. And we'll get Craig Miller into where? Right here. And that should work fine. Perfect. It actually has good chemistry. That's kind of nice to see. Alright. This is the last game of this month. Let's see how we do. And a 0-0 tie. Oh my goodness, that's the first 0-0 tie I think I've ever seen. Oh my goodness, our fans must have had a boring ass game. Imagine going to this game and you're all pumped up to just see the New York Rangers come to town, and then nobody scores a single goal. Both teams have close records too, so that must have been the most boring game to watch ever. Damn, man, 0-0 tie. I don't know if there ever was a 0-0 tie in NHL history. There has to have been, right? There probably has to have been. I just don't know which game that was. I should actually look that up on Google for fun. Has there oh my goodness, I could barely type with my mic being around. Ever been a 0-0 NHL game? Not technically a tie because playoffs had been at some point. Huh. Doesn't seem like it's been a thing or it's ever happened before. Somebody said when Ron Tugnutt got 80 saves. I don't remember which game that was, but there might have been a 0-0 game, but I honestly don't even know when. But that is the most boring game you'll ever see. For sure. Goddamn. Has there been any trades? Let's see. No trades. Alright. That's fine. That's fine. At least our team's fallen off here. And we shouldn't be a playoff team, which is good. Because we're on 39 points, which is currently, if we're looking at the Western Conference teams, the Canucks are below us, and that's it. So we are technically the second worst team in the Western Conference. Eastern Conference-wise, there's no teams below us. So we are technically the second worst team in the NHL, I think, right now, which is really good. Which means maybe we'll have ourselves a nice top 5 pick again this year. Let's go to the end of this month and see if there's any trades by the end of this month, as well as Berehowski has returned. That's good, considering he's probably going to be getting flipped at the deadline. We'll also take a look at some other players that could be potential trade candidates too. But I think Berehowski's definitely the number 1 guy I'd be moving for sure, just based on how he was performing. Alright, keep losing games, boys, please, because maybe we'll have the best odds. Maybe Vancouver will pass us. There was a trade this month, and this is a pretty big blockbuster trade between 2 Pennsylvania teams. Pittsburgh has acquired 2 second-round picks and Nick Schultz, who was drafted last year by the Flyers. The Flyers acquire Robert Lang and Grant Ledyard. So Flyers are building up and trying to go for a Stanley Cup, I guess, when they still have like Eric Lindros and whatnot. So that's a quite substantial move for both teams. All right, last game of the month. We get offered Felix Potvin and a 4 for a third-round pick. I don't need that, but that's kind of neat still. 20, 36, 5, and 3 has the Canucks passed us because we literally just got shut out by them. No, they have not. We have 45 points, which is still... Yeah, we're still second worst, I think, in the entire league, if I'm not mistaken, which is awesome. All right, let's take a look at some player stats and stuff like that. I actually do want to see who's pending free agent-wise first, though, so we can know who is potentially a trade candidate. So if we go like this, Scott Walker, Yachmenov, damn, there's actually some pretty big guys that are pending free agents that we could decide to flip or not. So I'm actually going to write down some of this on a piece of paper because I'm an old school man that likes writing stuff down. So Scott Walker would be an interesting one. I do like Scott Walker. I wouldn't mind holding on to him for a few more years because he's only 27. But there's also Yachmenov, Valachevic. There's Berehowski. There's Peltonen. There's Bordeleau. And then everybody else is probably low value. Right? Yeah, everybody else is probably wise. Goalie-wise, Vokun's an RFA. So I think those 6 players would be the ones to move if I was going to move anybody. But like I said, I don't know if I would move Scott Walker or Yachmenov yet because they're only 27. But let's take a look at what our players have been doing so far this season, as well as these standings. So if we go here to the entire league-wise, let's go to entire league. We are currently up the second worst team in the league. Vancouver is still dead last, but there is a chance that they could pass us at some point, but I doubt they will. But yeah, we're the second worst team by a total of 7 points. We do have games in hand on Buffalo, which is interesting, but I do like that we're obviously this low in the standings. We are the second worst defensive team or offensive team behind only the Vancouver Canucks, who are the worst offensive team. Goals against per game wise, we are one of the worst defensive teams as well, so everything's fallen apart, which is great. Our power play has fallen off astronomically too. It was at 22% early in the season, now it's down to 14.4. And then penalty kill has actually improved, I think, in this episode, which is kind of strange. However, it is still the second worst penalty kill in the league. We are 10-17, 3-1 on home ice, 10-19, 2-2 on the road, 2-7, 0-1 in our last 10 games. All right, let's take a look at these player stats. Who has been doing what so far through 64 games? So Greg Johnson on 42 points, minus 37. Holy crap. I like Greg Johnson, but man, that's some very bad defense. I don't know if it's just our team in front of him or what, but or not in front of him, with him. But geez, Greg Johnson's having a rough time defensively. Mike Watt's still playing decently. Obviously not off to as good of a start this second half, but 38 points and only a -1. Yeah, he's a pretty decent kind of option for our team right now still. Legwand on 28 points and a +3 is pretty good considering the team's status. 27 points for Fitzgerald, -12. Not terrible. And Bortles on 25 points. I still like our depth scoring because we're getting offense from multiple lines, it looks like, but the plus-minus is a major issue. Johansson on 43 points, -3. Hartnell on 32 points in his first season is nice so far. Yachmanov on 31 points. Nagy on 30 points, -33 though. Peltonen on 27, and Cote only played 3 games with the 1 goal so far. Maybe we could move Yachmanov. I do like Yachmanov, but having Hartnell and Nagy on the left side, it makes sense that Yachmanov goes at some point. And then we get Hartnell into like the top 6 and stuff. And then we also have Martin Erat, who's unsigned in the left winger. So Yachmanov might actually have to go at some point. I just don't know if it's this season or we re-sign him for another year or we decide to flip him away this offseason. Or not this offseason, at this trade deadline. Scott Walker, 37 points, -35. Damn, yeah, that entire top line has been completely blown up defensively. Valachevic on 22 points, -13. So yeah, I do like our depth scoring, but obviously the plus-minus is very bad. From a defensive standpoint, we had some okay plus-minuses earlier in this episode, but since then, not so much. Berehowski on 33 points, I definitely think he's a trade candidate. Timonen on 19 points, -28. Skrastins and Lintner, 12 and 10 points, both minus 12. Fitzpatrick, 8 points, minus 21. Demander, 7 points, minus 8. And Craig Miller with 1 goal in 7 games and somehow a plus 2. Goaltending-wise, Vokoun has an 895. And he's been dreadful. And Mason in this episode has definitely fallen off, but he's still over a 900 save percentage at least, which is not too bad. Interesting. So if we're looking at those guys that are pending free agents that we could trade away, if we look at all skaters, we were saying Scott Walker was one of them. Do we trade Scott Walker? I think I would rather probably hold on to him, but his trade value might be a little bit up. Berehowski definitely, I'd say, would get flipped. So I'm going to circle Berehowski on my piece of paper as a guy to move away. Yachmanev, and it's kind of debatable. I'll put a star next to him. Walker, I don't think I'm going to move him this year. Valachevic, I don't think he's going to fetch us really much. But Valachevic could be dealt as well. I'll put a star next to him. Peltonen, yeah, Peltonen maybe could as well. I'll put some stars next to a couple guys' names. Bordeleau as well. So the only one I probably wouldn't deal with would be Walker. Yachmanev, Valachevic, Peltonen, and Bordeleau are all guys that we could potentially deal with. And then Berehowski's a guy I'm definitely flipping away, I think. So I want your guys' opinions on who you would deal away at this point in time, because obviously we're not going to be a playoff team. The only plus player right now on a team is David Legwand, so it's good to see at least Legwand's plus this season. So, but everybody else, oof. Interesting. Let's take a look at stats around the league too right now. I'm just curious on who's leading the league at this point. Let's see what we got here. If we go forwards, Mike Medano's leading with 84 points. Yashin number 2 with 82. Sakic, Lindros, Solani, Yager. All right. Who's got the most goals so far? Yager at 48. A lot of 40 goal scorers this season. Best defenseman so far is Rob Blake of all people at 57. He's got 21 goals. Damn, Rob Blake's going off. And then goalie-wise so far, Heavy Bullen leading in wins. Most shutouts so far is Kidd, Dunham, and Heavy Bullen. Of course, Dunham's doing decent in Chicago. He is below 500, but he's got 4 shutouts and some solid save percentages. Heavy Bullen up there again. Yeah, Heavy Bullen might be up there for the Vezina. That's kind of interesting. No goalie goals so far. Heavy Bullen has the most assists, him and Trevor Kidd again. And best rookie so far this season, Mike Watt and Jason Weimer are tied right now. Both of them are 24 years old, but will be up there for the Rookie of the Year. Also, Brad Richards. There is a chance that Brad Richards could pass him, but I would give it probably to Weimer right now based on the plus-minus, just because I know the game does that usually. Unless they give it to a goaltender instead. Has there been any good rookie goalies? JSO Band's been solid, but not worth it. Yeah, I wouldn't say anybody deserves it from goaltenders. Alright, so there is that. Let's take a look at the trading block and all that stuff. We'll take a look at if there's any been trades first before this deadline here. Other than that one trade we already saw. No, only that one. Okay. Let's see what we got on the block. If there's anything worth trading for. I'll also just go to Find Trading to see if we get thrown any interesting offers for Berehowski in this episode too. But let's see. Dwayne Rollison, Ken Reggett, so some goalies. Nothing insane there in Anaheim. I mean, Chouinard's decent as kind of like a bottom 6 option, but I don't really know if he would be worth bringing in. Sean Burke, Wyatt Smith, and Pettinger and stuff like that. Donald Adet. We're obviously not trying to make ourselves good, so obviously a lot of these players are not players I would bring in. There is a 25-year-old Hal Gill, which also played for the National Predators at one point. I think he's losing morale because of ice time. Yeah, he's been scratched most of the season. So he's dropped off a lot. He doesn't have super high value. That would be maybe something to take back for Berehowski. Yeah, Hal Gill could be interesting. I'm going to write down Hal Gill's name for a second. Van Imp is also probably losing morale because of ice time, right? Yeah. Wow, I don't know what Boston's doing with their defenders, but they're scratching a bunch of them, apparently. I don't think I would need Van Imp. I would rather Hal Gill because he's younger, but damn. Okay, what else we got here? Woolley, Hamel, Kodalik's still on the block. Alright. Calgary, Warenka, Grant Fear. No. Those are too much veteran-based players. And then some of these guys aren't really that good. Vasicek's decent, though. I do want... maybe Joseph Vasicek could be somebody we would bring in. So off to a good start in the AHL this year. Or what would be the IHL for this team that he's on, the Cyclones. Vasicek's kind of intriguing, but I don't know if I would get thrown an offer for him or not. We'll see. I'll put Vasicek written down as well. He did also play for the Preds too, so it's kind of interesting I'm bringing him up. And Steve Sullivan is also losing morale because of ice time, I think. Because he's definitely not a 79, I could tell you that much. Or he's just not playing good this season. I don't know what's with Steve Sullivan, but bringing him to Nashville like he did in real life would be interesting. I'm going to write down Sullivan too, because I'm just curious if any of these guys have value that we can actually afford. Colorado, Mark Denis. He's only 23 as a goalie. It's kind of an intriguing one. He has been playing in the AHL all year after playing in the NHL last season. He's been really good in the AHL right now. Played one game in the playoffs, 15 minutes, made all saves. Some of these guys are kind of intriguing. It'll be interesting to see if the game actually gives me any offers involving them. Zetterberg's still on the block, but I'm not trading for a medium elite guy. It's going to cost too much. I would rather draft one myself. Anything else here? I didn't even see who the best team in the league right now this season is, but I think it must be Arizona based on the fact that Heavy Bones up there and wins and such. Kevin Weeks, Eric Cairns. Hopefully we get some interesting trades that happen in the next episode again, because those are always like the most fun episodes ever, just to see what happens. Chris Neal on the block. But I know he doesn't really pan out. Kovalev on 1 year left. Damn, Pittsburgh's offloading some good players. Surprised that they aren't trying to move Yager or something like that, though. Yeah, I'm not really seeing the most intriguing players on the block, to be honest, but it's okay. Naslin's on the block. Wow. Wow, that's a very intriguing one. Vancouver is really struggling this season, and they also have Matthias Oland on the block. Damn, he signed for 2 years. Oland's kind of intriguing too, but I don't really want to be building his team up super quick. That's the only thing. Manny Fernandez on the block. Felix Potvin. Todd Bertuzzi's on the block as well. Wow. Well, that's a major deviation in NHL history. The Canucks are trying to offload all these good players. Wow. Alright, let's go to Trade Finder just so I could see what I could potentially get for like Berehowski, Yachmanev, stuff like that. So, if I was to trade Drake Berehowski, which more than likely we will be, what could I get for him? 2 third-round picks, a second, a third, and some prospect. Hal Gill is actually an option I could get for Berehowski. Straight up, a 4th and a 5th as well. Now, Hal Gill does have a bit of a lengthy contract. 4 years at 3.9. But we would save him from the depth of Boston, apparently. So Hal Gill would be an intriguing one. We could get him for Berehowski. I'm just going to write an arrow from Berehowski to Gill just in case I decide to make that one next episode. There's also Van Imp, Murphy. The rest of these ones not intriguing. That's not Steve Shields because it's a forward. 2nd round pick in Bronco Radovojevic. That's not terrible either. Ilya Brzgalov's rights in a 3rd. Don't really need a goalie prospect. Volchenkov in a 3rd. 2nd and a 3rd. 2nd and Chris Neal. Alright, so there's some pretty good offers actually out there for Drake Berehowski. So if you guys saw anything intriguing for Berehowski out of these trades, let me know. Maybe I'll trade him for one of those things, or we'll make up our own trade instead. Let's take a look at some other options as well here for trades. So if we were to trade away Yachmanev this season, what could I get for Vitaly Yachmanev? Sean Burke, no, thank you. Some prospects, or Sheldon Brookbank in 2 picks, I should say. Steve Sullivan in a 4th. I could literally get Steve Sullivan for Yachmanev. Wow. That's an interesting one. It would help out our right side a bit, but obviously I don't really want to be a good team right now, but that might be worth it. What else we got here? More Radovojevic, more Brzgalov. Some top 4 defensive prospect that is generated. Yeah, if you guys see any offers that you would do, let me know, because maybe we'll trade away some of these guys next episode, but at the same time, maybe I'll hold on to someone like Yachmanev's not too old, so I honestly could hold on to him if need be, but we do have a lot of left wingers, so. Veli Peltonen, 6th round pick. Sheldon Brookbank. Yeah, Veli Peltonen's not going to fetch much. We could get Mark Denis straight up, but at the same time, we have Rick DiPietro in the system, so it doesn't really make much sense. I could trade him for Nico Kapanen, a younger Finnish player. I know Husky might want that deal. Peltonen for Kapanen. That could work. Nick Hagman as well. Yeah, we got some interesting things we could do, for sure. Commodore, Hayda. All right. And some other Oland, not Matthias Oland. What else we got that we could get rid of? I said Valachevic, who's on the right side. So let's go over to Valachevic here. I don't think he's going to fetch us much. 3rd and a 5th. Matt Pettinger, Kirill Safronov, Sheldon Brookbank. Hey, we could get literally Joseph Vasicek. Well, that's probably something I would do, is Valachevic to Carolina for Vasicek in a 5th. That seems like a nice little move. So I'll put Valachevic down and Vasicek just in case I want to make that move, because that could be a really intriguing one. Yeah, there's some intriguing offers out here. Like, I think we could definitely start getting some more good prospects, which is nice via these trades. Some other guys like Backman, Walker, Bork, but Alright. That's interesting. And the last one was Bordelot that I could potentially flip. I also should just take a look at Scott Walker for fun as well, but I don't think I would trade him even. So Sebastian Bordelot and Rob Valachevic would fetch me a 2nd and a 3rd if I wanted to package both of them instead, which I don't think I do. Oh, wait, did I actually leave Valachevic on the thing? I probably did, right? Yeah, I forgot to remove him from that. I was like, why did I get an offer for both of them? A 5th round pick, Pettinger. Yeah, we're not going to get super much for Bordelot, but we could definitely get something from at least. And lastly, I did want to take a look at, just in case, what Scott Walker could fetch us. Scott Walker could fetch us a bunch of crap, pretty much. Merrick Malik and Shane Willis, Yeah, it's not the most insane thing. Nobody wants to give up 1st round picks in this day and age. It seems like it's always 2nd rounders. Alright. Alright, final thing we got to do to wrap up this episode. Let's just take a quick look at the draft class again, just in case you guys want to see what's going on with that. And then that'll be it for this episode after we finish that part. So, obviously the top prize is Ilya Kovalchuk, so another left winger, which we don't really need a left winger, which is kind of annoying because we have Scott Hartnell and such like that. But obviously, if we draft Kovalchuk, that would be amazing. We could use him as a right winger technically because he does shoot right if we really want to. But then after that, Jason Spezza would be nice to have. There's Jussi Jokinen, Ales Hemsky, Mikko Koivu. Is there anybody listed as a gem so far in this, or what? A couple busts. Joel Perreault listed as a bust. That makes sense. Rich Peverley listed as a bust is kind of dumb, because Rich Peverley, in my opinion, pretty underrated player. Joel Perreault, on the other hand, definitely a bust, but damn. Let me take a look at the goalie prospects again. Ray Emery is number 1 for goalies, probably. Yeah, he's probably number 1 goalie. Pascal Leclerc. Alright. Gonna be interesting to see where all these guys go once we get to the draft portion of the season. But anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for this episode of our Nashville Predators Throwback 2000 franchise mode. So in next episode, we will have the 2001 trade deadline. We'll probably trade away at least, I would say, what is it, Barahowski. There's a realistic chance, though, that I might trade away like Valachevic and maybe somebody like Peltonen. Maybe I trade away Yachmanev. I don't know. If you guys saw any intriguing offers, though, let me know, and I will maybe make them in the next episode, depending if it's something that our team kind of needs to make at this point in time. But we are at least tanking, and hopefully we have a good pick in this upcoming draft. But let me know what you think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.